Well, welcome back for another Snacktime Snippet session. With me today is Paul Skursky, and I'm Mark Lahart. And today we're going to be sharing with you some of the capabilities within Dynamics 365 Business Central, and specifically around the mobile app, and some of the capabilities that are available here within the mobile app, whether you're entering time or expenses or even some approvals here. So I guess the first question I have here, Paul, is how would a customer go about even installing the mobile app?
Yeah. All right. Great question, Mark. So, I've got my, I guess you can't see. Oh, there you go. I got my cell phone here. So what I did to install the mobile app is we already have an instance of Business Central loaded with the GovCon365 solution from XTIVIA, from AppSource into our environment. And then for an end user, I just went to, in this case, the Google store, the Google Play Store, found the Business Central app from Microsoft, downloaded it, and now I've got the full mobile app loaded and ready for me to show you guys some of those capabilities. So with the GovCon365 app, we've added some additional capabilities that's beyond what the base system allows. And that's what I'm going to show you today, some of those GovCon365 features.
Great.
All right, so what I want to start out with is expense reports. And actually, I've got a real world scenario. I was just traveling with Mark a little bit, and there were some expenses that I incurred while we were traveling. So I'm going to go ahead, and you can see there's a box down in self-service, and it says my trip $, and these are expenses that I've captured while traveling. So I'm going to go ahead and click into that, and now I want to create a new expense. So we'll go ahead and we'll put the date of the expense on there. So it defaults it to today, but mine was a couple weeks prior, and I'm just going to say lunch with Mark, and then also Joe and Brian were there. And go ahead and put in the amount of the expense, $126, and then I would just code it. So I'll code it to meals, and then you can see at the bottom there's a little checkbox there, and it says has receipt. So I'm going to go ahead and just take a picture of the receipt. Let's go ahead and launch it, make sure I get a good picture here. Take that photo, and now I've just captured that expense on the fly. And towards the end of the presentation, I'm going to show you a little bit about, now once I've coded it, what are the next steps? So I've grabbed the expense, I coded it to meals, I put in the amount, and then I'm going to charge it off to a project would be the last step, and I'll do that inside of the full Business Central interface. So the idea is, as somebody traveling, really the big thing is I want to capture that receipt. I don't want to have to carry that around with me. So now I've got a picture of the receipt I've associated with the expense. And then when I complete that process, it'll automatically go on my expense report. So the idea is that, in today's world, we're more virtual and remote than ever. And having the ability on my cell phone to capture some of these things means I don't lose receipts. And it's also just easy for me to capture that stuff as I go. So that's one of the typical scenarios that, we see clients leveraging the mobile app for Business Central, and specifically GovCon365 as a part of Business Central. The next scenario I'm going to cover is just, the most common scenario for a services-based company, which is timesheet data. So you can see from my mobile interface, I can see I've entered 24 hours in my current timesheet. I've got 4 expense reports that hadn't been processed, and I see all the history down below of time, expense, PTO, etc. So say I'm in a secure facility and I just want to enter my time as soon as I get out to my car, right? I had to leave my cell phone in the car, but now I'm done for the day. I come in and it drops me into today's date. So the 21st, you can see I don't have any hours entered for today, but if I swipe to the left, I can look at how many hours I've entered in this period. So you can see that I had 8 for Thursday the 16th, 8 on Friday, 8 on Monday, but today's hours haven't been recorded. I can drill into any of these days to see the detail behind it. So when I drill into that, you can see that it says on Monday 2/20, I took 8 hours of PTO. Whoops, didn't mean to exit out there, but I want to enter my hours for today against this base consolidation project. So I'm going to go ahead and drill into it. You can see it drops me into a view that shows me today. I haven't entered any hours in this project yet, but I'm going to go ahead and enter my 8 hours for today. So I can enter those hours. And then also, if I wanted to record a comment, I could do that. So just very simple for a user to enter those hours. And now you can see that total hours are now up to 32 for the period. So, it's going to enter it and record it in real time. It goes directly to the back end. So whether I'm entering data from my mobile app or from the full browser client, it all goes to the same place. So those are the two most common scenarios for recording time and recording expenses. Mark, anything else that?
Yeah, Paul, just a quick question, right? So, I mean, is there any limitation to the type of phone that I'm using here that can enter time here? Or...
No, I mean, as long as the phone, it has to be current enough to be able to download the app. But whether you're on an Android or Apple device, I mentioned I'm on an Android, but if you're on the Apple device, you would just go to the Apple store and download the Business Central app in the same fashion.
Great.
And then the last element that Mark talked about is approvals, right? So if I need to approve documents, you can see at the bottom, I've got the approval tile, and it shows that I've got one record that needs to get approved. I can go ahead and click into that, and you can see that it's time entered for Linda. I can review Linda's timesheet, make sure everything looks okay. And then I can go to this page and either approve or reject that timesheet. So if I approve it, it's just approve that document. And now when I go back into my home page, you can see that there's no approvals left for me to go through. So if I had multiple people I wanted to approve as I'm, out of the office for whatever reason, I could just click into that and finish that process as part of my approval function. So those are just some quick scenarios in terms of how people can leverage the mobile device for time entry, also expense entry, as well as approving documents. All right, so now I'm back inside the full Business Central client, and you can see a couple things, right? As I drill into my trip expenses and I go down to the bottom, you're going to see that expense that I recorded for my cell phone is already in here. So that $126 lunch that we had has been recorded. And you can also see that there's a checkbox in the has receipt field, which means that we've actually captured that receipt from the cell phone, and I can go ahead and move it over to the expense report when I'm ready. Before I move it to the expense report, the reason why we don't necessarily have people record the job and task at the point of cell phone entry is because we've got a function that can allow you to spread it over multiple jobs or just charge it to an individual job. So if I wanted to spread it, I would just choose the period, the expenses are from and to, and then what percent goes to each of those jobs. In this scenario, we'll just say it's all for one job. Go ahead and click next, and I'll say those expenses from 214, they're going to go on to one project. In this case, it was that base consolidation project I talked about earlier. I click next and finish, and now that project has been updated. And then my last step would just be to move it to an expense report. So really the idea here is the mobile device allows me to perform those everyday functions as an end user, but it's all connected with the back end. So even though two separate interfaces, all recording in real time and going to the back end Business Central database. So Mark, that's a little insight for our viewers on the mobile app and how GovCon365 helps people be more efficient when they're on the road.
Well, that's great. I just have one last question here, right? Assuming that it's all tied in with the back end, is this all DCAA compliant as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the timekeeping side, we didn't talk about some of those things, but even on the mobile app, audit trail is required. So if I made a change on my mobile app or the full client, it's going to require that audit trail to be recorded. I can also record comments. And then inside the application, and also mobile time, prevents time in advance on direct charges. And inside the application, as it relates to expense reports, we also have a per diem wizard that helps out from a compliance perspective.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Paul, we thank you again for another presentation demonstrating your capabilities here around the mobile app within Dynamics 365 Business Central and the GovCon365 app. Again, I'm Mark Lahart. You can see more of our videos here at www.govcon365.com or follow us on our XTIVIA YouTube channel. So thanks again.